exciting news. Season 3 of Meet the Redmonds podcast launches June 2nd. Join us, Marq and Bev Redmond, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. EST on Facebook, YouTube, and OCPI TV for inspiring conversations about faith, family, and marriage. Hey everybody, it's Bev.
It's Marq.
And we are
the Redmonds.
We are here for another exciting episode of Meet the Redmonds. We are back in the Chicago area specifically. We're hanging out near Lake Michigan. We found this little spot on the Indiana-Illinois line.
Calumet Park.
I believe this specific place is Veterans Memorial Park, and it's part of Hammond, Indiana, which is right there.
Right. And if you can see behind us, okay.
The beauty. the beauty that we grew up with, the Great Lake, Michigan.
Right.
Yeah. So we thought we would come back with an episode on soulmates.
Now, if you saw our past couple of episodes, episode 9 and episode 8, we talked about the myths of marriage, and I think one of them was that marriage is for everyone. And we began to think, and we kind of did some perusing and some research, and the topic of soulmates kept coming up. So we said, well, you know what? Let's dive a little deeper and find out what soulmates really mean.
Yeah. So there may be a myth out there, or is a myth out there, that just because you are a Christian, just because you are a married couple or a dating couple, that you are automatically soulmates. And we say, necessarily to that. No, it's not automatic. We also promised them a story.
Okay.
About how we almost weren't soulmates.
Okay. But why don't we give our viewers a little bit of background of where the term soulmate came from. A lot of people may think that, that's something that you may have heard in the last 10, 15, 20 years, but actually it goes way back to ancient times.
Way back. So we did a little digging, we did a little Googling, a little research. Where is this term? Because I don't know if many ladies are like me. I've spent my time reading romantic novels and watching a lot of Lifetime and Hallmark channels, and we always think that the idea of a soulmate is really sweet, really cute, and yes, it is. However, it goes back to mythology.
Major Floor, do you believe that God has created a specific life partner for each of us? If so, how do we know? No, I don't. I'm going to answer this one quickly because the idea of a soulmate comes from Greek mythology. Greek mythology believed that every one of us was eternally present before we were born. We were two halves that had been a whole in the previous age or whatever. Then Zeus took the bodies of those people, divided them, male and female, and sent them onto the earth to go and find each other. The idea of a soulmate is Greek mythology, not Christian theology. That is important. I wanted to answer that question. I saw it in the chat. I wanted to answer the question because recently Joshua Harris, the author of I Kissed Dating Goodbye, denied all that he wrote in that book, then denied the faith, then divorced his wife, and now is championing all kinds of immorality all around the world and living it up. Okay, why do I bring him up? Because that book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, caused an entire generation of teenagers to wait for the perfect Christian spouse, and no one was good enough. And then they got into their 20s and 30s, and before they knew it, they were much older, and they wasted 10, 20 years of their lives waiting for the perfect Christian relationship. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. And we do a disservice to our young when we put this burden on them to say, you've got to find that one person, that specific life partner. What we do is we set the bar at the level that the Bible does. Okay, so do not be unequally yoked. They have to have a profession of faith, a fruitfulness to their lives. The fruits of the Spirit should be born out in their lives. They should be loving the Lord without loving you. Do they go to church? Do they express the faith? Do they want to grow in Christ? These are the things that you measure a potential spouse by, not by the elements or the doctrines of a pagan religion. I hope that helps. And thank you for the question. And thank you guys for the chat. I really love chatting with you guys on Thursday. That's what this more relaxed atmosphere is. And I appreciate it.
Say more?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. Took a little bit of a dive, and it appears that it goes back to Zeus. And Zeus did some splitting of people. And it was originally thought in mythology that we had 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 heads. And punishment, we were split in half, and then you spend the rest of your life looking for your soul mate.
Your other half.
Your other half of you.
Now, mind you now, people, this is mythology, okay?
Mythology, which should not be confused with
the Bible.
With the Bible or Christianity in any kind of way.
Now, you're going to have some people saying, well, you shouldn't read that. It's not of God. It's not the Bible, blah, 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 blah. I'm a big mythology fan, and that's all I read growing up. It was either dinosaurs or mythology. So I like my Greek lowercase g gods. It's good reading. It's interesting reading.
Yeah, it was interesting reading, and many of the things that you watch now in Marvel and other and DC Comics, or if you read comics, a lot of it is based out of some mythological characteristics.
Thor,
yes,
the Norse god of thunder. Right.
So again, everything that you're doing, if comics and things are not for you, we understand, but we wanted you to have a little bit of history on where Soulmates
Because
came from.
some people say comics, and along with the Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings type books, that is a precursor to witchcraft. Now, I don't read Harry Potter or anything like that, but yeah, I do read comic books. I read Greek mythology. Science fiction I read. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, but I think you have to be strong enough in your Christian walk to ascertain what is leading you down the path of doom and gloom and what is just good, interesting reading.
Yes, and whatever your strength level is, govern yourself accordingly. We don't want to have anybody to stumble or feel like they can't grow in their Christian walk because of anything that we are doing or have done. But if you've taken a philosophy class in college, you came across Greek and Roman mythology, a lot of teachings such as Plato, Aristophanes, other people, other scholars BC, before Christ, and in some after, that contain a lot of this historic information. So, soulmates not necessarily biblical. It is a romantic notion, and it comes or has some roots, as much as we can find out, from some mythological places. Oh, how do we get to this idea that soulmates has to be?
Well, you just hit on a good point that soulmates is not really a Christian philosophy or concept. So, but yet you find a lot of Christians saying that, they're waiting for their soulmate and all of this. So I don't think that it's really a thing that you can really hang your hat on.
So what does the Bible say about the closeness of husband-wife?
Well, there's the Bible verse that says, a man should leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become as one. There are thousands, well, I don't know if it's thousands, but there's several. I went from thousands to several. There's several. There's several books in the Bible and verses in the Bible that talk about the union of a man and a woman. So does that make that soulmates?
So here's my general thinking, and you can riff off of it. The greatest gift that God gives us, the fruits of the Spirit, love is that reigning feeling, that reigning emotion that we have. It says that there's nothing greater than this. Why are we trying to make something greater or more special?
Right. Add on to what's already there.
Yes.
Yeah, right, exactly.
By saying, and putting pressure to say that you've got to travel the world looking for that one singular person or a soulmate. I believe you can have a lot of identifying, or you could be a lot of identifying characteristics or a nice fit, that you have a lot of commonalities with individuals, but does that mean you're a soulmate? I think finding love with another person is the coup de grace. That's where you go. It is not so much that you have to make yourself suffer to think you are divinely, cosmically meant to be.
And you know what? When you mention soulmates, and you hit on it just very lightly, when you talk about cosmically, people think that your soulmate is found through astrology, you know, which also people think is also a precursor to witchcraft, which I never really put any stake into. Or, well, she's my sign, or Sagittarius is compatible with Scorpio, or whatever. I never really.
That's not our
The Bible
thing.
has much to say about the stars. Most basic to our understanding of the stars is that God created them. They show his power and majesty. The heavens are God's handiwork. Psalm chapter 8 verse 3 and 19 verse 1. He has all the stars numbered and named. Psalm chapter 147 verse 4. The Bible also teaches that God arranged the stars into recognizable groups that we call constellations. The Bible mentions 3 of these: Orion, the bear, or Ursa Major, and the crooked serpent, most likely Draco. In Job chapter 9 verse 9, chapter 26 verse 13, chapter 38 verses 31 through 32, and Amos chapter 5 verse 8. God is the one who fastens the bands of these constellations. He is the one who brings them forth, each in its season. In Job chapter 38, verse 32, God also points to the Mazzaroth, or usually translated constellations. This is thought by many to be a reference to the 12 constellations of the zodiac. The constellations have been tracked and studied for millennia. The Egyptians and Greeks knew of the zodiac and used it to measure the beginning of spring centuries before Christ. Much has been written of the meaning of the zodiacal constellations, including theories that they comprise an ancient display of God's redemptive plan. For example, the constellation Leo can be seen as a celestial depiction of the Lion of the tribe of Judah, Revelation chapter 5 verse 5, and Virgo could be a reminder of the virgin who bore Christ. However, the Bible does not indicate any hidden meaning for these or other constellations. The Bible says that stars, along with the sun and moon, were given for signs and seasons. Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. That is, they were meant to mark time for us. They are also signs in the sense of navigational indicators. And all through history, men have used the stars to chart their courses around the globe. God used the stars as an illustration of his promise to give Abraham innumerable seed. Genesis chapter 15, verse 5. Thus, every time Abraham looked up at the night sky, he had a reminder of God's faithfulness and goodness. The final judgment of the earth will be accompanied by astronomical events relating to the stars. Isaiah chapter 13, verses 9 through 10, and Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. Astrology is the interpretation of an assumed influence the stars and planets exert on human destiny. According to astrology, the sign you were born under, for example, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, or Virgo, etc., impacts your destiny. This is a false belief.
I don't like to blend a lot of stuff with my faith. My faith feels strong enough for me, and certainly encourage that hopefully it's strong enough for you. It's special enough on its own. I don't need to add any more.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but as the Beatles penned in their song, "Here Comes the Sun,"
Da, 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 da.
that's all I know.
Me too. That's all I know, but I know we've got some good sun,
Right.
and it goes back and forth.
Right.
It's good to feel. And y'all, it's my birthday.
Absolutely. So, and if you think about soulmates, if you found your soulmate, then there would never be divorces.
If you were, yes, it would seem if you were that perfect for each other, that one, it would be a widely received concept, and then two, why would there be problems in relationships? So it also seems to me that even in soulmates, there is this room for maybe we're not necessarily meant to be together. We may have a connection or vibe with someone, but that doesn't mean you need to walk down the aisle with them.
What about people who are widows or widowers? Did they lose their soulmate when their spouse passed away? Is it possible they can find another soulmate?
I believe you can love again. Maybe not at the same level, and maybe not for the same length of time, but I do believe you can find companionship. Now, we said this on last episode, or maybe the episode before, that should we part, should there be anything, sickness, anything that takes us away from each other, I'm not sure that I want to enter the marriage game again.
I don't. Nah.
I don't think so. And this I also made a point when we talked about this in episode part 2 of Myths About Christian Marriage. With soulmates, I think you work your way into closeness and tie and connection with your mate, with your spouse. That, yes, that creates that tie, that creates that sense of being a soulmate, a sense of being made for each other. It's not all of that commonality, and also the differences. I married you and I married someone else. Heaven forbid that we wouldn't have been able to work it out.
Right. And you know, if you took a poll of maybe 50 married couples and asked them, is this your first love? Or is your spouse your first love? They would probably say no. They really would.
Going to say no. My dad often taught me or told me whenever I was at a point of heartbreak, which was not very often, but when I got there, he would say often your first experiences are not your only experiences. There's something greater coming beyond this. There's something more for you beyond this. And he was right.
Now, you made mention of something as we were kind of going over notes and bouncing ideas off of each other about this. You said something about soul ties.
Yeah.
Okay.
This idea, I questioned. As this concept of being a soulmate, are we confusing it with a soul tie? And I've always heard that soul ties, and I've heard it referenced in the negative. I've heard soulmates referenced in the positive, but soul tie referenced in the negative. That you get so close to a person that when you part or when you tear, it's actually toxic. That you have taken on traits of this other person. You have, you can't really move on to another relationship because you are so hooked into what you had before.
And you say that you leave a little part of, I don't know if you said DNA with everyone that you may have had.
Kind of spiritual, mental, physical DNA with every person that you have had some kind of relationship with. I don't know about all of that. All of that to say, and Mark, you can certainly weigh in.
Well, if you leave something physical with everybody that you had some kind of relationship with.
See, I know he's getting ready to make a joke.
They call it.
He's going to call it some kind of disease.
I was going to say, that's a venereal disease.
No, we're not telling this. You left people with VD. That's not it. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
Come on, Saints.
Well, you said they leave a little bit with everybody you've been
remnants
with.
Of yourself.
Remnants.
And that, I think, has been... Funny. I've heard that in church and some other places, that if you have had multiple partners or you've been promiscuous, it's been used as a way to say that you need to be healed, you need to be set free from these soul ties so that you can move on to other people.
But I
am not that theologian to know that.
But I will say this: if you've been with people and multiple partners, and then they're with multiple partners, it's like that whole 6 degrees of separation
Okay.
that you've kind of spread yourself out there?
I think you can get yourself emotionally out there and slow down. Slow yourself down. In any of this, just had a conversation with my niece Maya. She probably will kill me for mentioning this. But she's one of those young people who's anxious to be in love, anxious to find that person. And I want people to look forward to what they want in terms of their relationships, but you shouldn't be hampered and pressured and feel some kind of weight because you are not married yet, or you haven't found your one, and that you're out there searching for your twin flame, your soulmate, your life partner, all of those things that you hear. Focus on Christ. Focus on being the best you that you can be.
Absolutely.
Do you think that the church pushes or places too much pressure on single people to be married?
I think sometimes they do.
You think so?
I think sometimes they do.
Yeah. Heard a little bit about the Kirk Franklin Cam Newton interview of this same concept that the church is weaponizing marriage and weaponizing it against single people. Tell me what you think.
That, if you're not married, then you can't hold certain positions in the church, and you can't do certain things in the church, and maybe your worship is not on the same level as a worship and praise and faith of somebody that's married. Didn't the Bible say that it's good to be single?
I believe it's Paul who said, hey, I would that you be like me. I'm single. I am not with anyone. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about, and I'm able now to work harder for the Lord, because when I'm married, and this is true, my responsibility goes to my mate. It is not that I can just go and run and do. I'm accountable to this person. We have goals, we have other things, and I don't get to live a life with as much free time as I did when I was single. I do think that we place a lot of emphasis on marriage. I think we place a lot of emphasis, and I'm not saying, when I say this, please go read our book. I address this. I think there's a lot of emphasis put on virginity. I think there's a lot of emphasis placed on having children. I think there's a lot of emphasis placed on staying married, and even married in some very toxic situations just to stay married.
I'm glad you brought that up. We have a presidential candidate, a vice presidential candidate, who has said some things concerning marriage, and that women that don't marry or don't have kids are not as invested in the state of the country as those who have mothers. I mean, those who are mothers and
They're
have
not
children.
family oriented, or can't get to that. Yeah.
And then he came back and said something about the role of a post-menopausal woman is to help raise the grandkids. That their value is not as important as women who are of childbearing age. So I'm paraphrasing here, and I don't want to give any credence to any one political party, but it's the party that may be a little reddish in color.
Rhymes with bump. There you go.
And I think
the
the vice presidential candidate name rhymes with dance.
Something like that.
But you didn't hear it from us.
No, not telling you who to vote for, where to go, but I am telling you that listen carefully. That's who we are espousing. But take your time. Listen to what you're hearing. And when it doesn't make sense, it's okay to challenge some of the thoughts that people are giving you. And some things just defy sociology, some things just defy logic, some things just defy truth.
Because I know your mother and father and my mother and father, their goals were not to just raise grandkids. They had fun with them. They could come over.
They love us.
But it was time to go.
Yes. And there's some partial truths in what's being said, but that's not the complete truth. And when you do those partial truths and you say them and state them so dogmatically, even when I listen to Kirk in the interview, you're stating it so strongly as if there could not be another slice or another piece of information that you should consider. And I think that's dangerous too.
Now, we want to talk more about this, but you can also get our book, our 2 books, Revelations of a Real Man or Woman, and Finally I Do Again. We talk about some of the same things in both of our books. You can go to redmondprojects.com and you can click on shop and you can get those 2 books and we can send them out to you, and you will be amazed that some of the things that you just heard today is in print.
And in more detail, but in a way that you can sit down with your family, with your spouse, as a single person, and really dive into some thoughts and think about the person that you want to be, whether you remain single, whether you've gone through a stage of divorce, whether you are reunited for a second marriage or going down the aisle for the first time.
Whether you found your soulmate or you think you found someone that might grow into being your soulmate, all of that. But
I'm going to say, if I had any advice, if there are 3 things we can leave with people, one of the things that I would leave, if you're testing for marriage, test that thing out. Don't just jump because they look good, because they sound good, even smell good. All of those things are important, especially smelling good. However, all those things are important, but give it some time. Put those things to the test. One of the stories that we said we would tell is how we, on our second date,
we don't have time for that. Our time is almost... Our time is running nigh.
No.
So
Are we really running out of time?
I think so.
Are we?
Yep.
I think we can put it in and then decide if we're going to cut it.
No, we're not going to do that. We'll wait till next week, and I'll let you finish talking about your other 2 points because you only gave one.
Do you have another one?
No.
About marriage advice? Considering marriage?
I'm tapped out.
I think you're just trying to get off camera and make this a quick visit.
No. But we will continue next week. And I think next week let's do our halfway point episode. Some of our better moments, our great moments. Well, I would say better. All our moments have been great. Some of our best moments from...
I want it on the record that
you
just cut me off today.
No, I didn't.
Yes,
Season 3, episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to take snippets of all that. We're going to give you a best of next week. So...
editing.
Yes. Let's get out of here. It's not my wife's way.
Yes, it is.
This is why she's not my soulmate. She's not on the same page
It
with me.
could go any way at any point in time.
Finish the end.
It's not my husband's way.
It's the Redmond way.
Don't you like Mark's hat? Happy
Peace.
birthday to me, Lake Michigan. Exciting news! Season 3 of Meet the Redmonds podcast launches June 2nd. Join us, Marq and Bev Redmond, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. EST on Facebook, YouTube, and OCPI TV for inspiring conversations about faith, family, and marriage.